everybody. I'm here today with Coach Ant, and he's going to be helping me teach you guys about straightjacket grip fighting. In straightjacket grip fighting, we're going to be on our opponent's back, going for the rear naked choke, and we're going to be using our legs to trap their arms so we can go into the choke. Now, what's the point of all this? Let's talk about the deficit problem first and why we're doing this. Actually, first, there are two main problems when we're attacking the back. The first one we talked about last week. We have the alignment problem, where we have to maintain alignment while we continue to fight for the choke. Our opponent's trying to escape, and we have to maintain good position, good alignment, long enough to actually get the choke. We looked at that last week. The second problem associated with back control is the deficit problem. Deficit meaning I'm at a lower level than he is, or I have fewer tools than he has. We're at a deficit. There's a kind of a paradox in that the back control is the strongest position in jiu-jitsu, but a lot of people really struggle to actually finish the choke from there. A lot of people really struggle to get the rear naked choke, even though it's the best position you can be in, and even though the choke is I'd say the most successful jiu-jitsu submission there is. Let's talk about why. Ant's going to stay right here. When I'm behind Ant, understand that we have a seatbelt. I have one arm that goes over, one arm that goes under. This is the only arm that can really choke. I cannot choke him with this arm, it's underneath his shoulder. So here I've got one arm that can choke. The problem is, Ant has 1, 2 defensive hands to my 1 offensive hand. Even worse is that in addition to his 2 hands, he has his chin, his jaw. So he has 1, 2, 3 defensive tools to my 1 offensive tool. That's a big problem for me. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to try to choke Ant and he's going to defend. Go ahead, Ant. It's going to be really hard for me to get a choke. Incredibly hard. So our problem is that we're at a deficit. He has 2 defensive hands in the chin. I have 1 choking hand. At the very most, at the absolute most, I can have 2 choking arms. 2 offensive tools to his 1, 2, 3 defensive tools. Now in reality, I very rarely will go with 2 choking arms because we have very little ability to control his rotation here. If I'm here, he can start to spin within a lock and then I lose position and we've lost the alignment. So in order to maintain good alignment, I typically want to have 1 arm underneath as a control arm. This helps me to control his rotation. Even better if I can come through and take a wrist ride or a grip over the knuckle line. We'll talk more about this in a little bit. But that's the basics of the deficit problem, that we have a problem. He has too many defensive tools for us. The solution to the deficiency problem is to use the straightjacket, where I'm going to look to trap my opponent's arms in such a way that he cannot use his arms to defend. When I go for the choke and he tries to defend the choke, he goes to use his arms, they're both caught. And now I'm going to have to use my arm to work my way through underneath the jaw, and I can get through for the finish. Okay, so that's the basics of the deficiency problem. We're going to talk about the exact grip fighting strategies and the ways we grip fight in order to trap the arms. But before we get to the exacts of the grip fighting, I first want to go over some tips to help you actually get a good bite on the arm. Because how often have you had it where you try to trap the arm with your leg and your opponent limp arms free and they get the arm back? Let me take your back in. Let's face the bleachers over here. Let's do a little bit more toward the wall. Then we're here. And we fall to the side. Perfect. So we end up right here. Okay, we're in back control. Understand that if I want to trap his arms, I can only trap one of his arms, typically. It's always this one. I cannot trap this arm because his body weight is on this leg. I cannot really use this leg very well. So our bottom leg is just going to be focused on keeping a high bottom hook. It's always our top leg
the unweighted leg that I'm going to be able to use to trap my partner's arm. Okay? So we're always using the top leg. There are some instances, we'll look at this in the future in other weeks, there are some instances where I can have the bottom arm trapped, but we typically need to set those up from a different position, like from turtle. We'll set it up from turtle and fall onto the trapped arm, but we're not going to get into that today. Typically, we're going to be using our top leg. Now, when I go to use my top leg to trap the arm, one problem is that it can be hard to reach, especially if you're not flexible. I'm trying to trap and it's hard. One thing, very, very important, that will help me reach with my leg is to take Ant's hand down below the line of his chest. Here. If his hand is up here, it can be very difficult for me to trap. You need extreme flexibility. But when I can take his hand and I can slide his hand down by his hips, it becomes relatively easy for me to start trapping this arm so he can't use it. So that's one important tip, is that when we want to trap the arm, we want to bring it down low, down by his belly. If it's up here on the sternum or on the ribs, it's very difficult to trap. So I push it down until it goes off the ribs and down onto the soft stomach. The lower, the better. The lower his arm is, the easier it is for me to reach. So we want to have the top leg doing the trapping, and in order to do that, we need this top arm to come down by the belly button, down by the waist. Another important element when you guys are working the straightjacket, I'm just going to keep this arm on the mat, just out of the way, thank you. Another important element when you guys are working the straightjacket, I take my knee and I make sure my knee is above the elbow. If I go to trap the arm, but I don't have a good seal on the elbow, Ant can slide his elbow up to the ceiling, or pull his elbow up to the ceiling and get out. If I'm here and I don't have a good seal, nice and slow. Let's go nice and slow so I can slowly see it. I'm here, Ant can free right there. Once his elbow's free, even if I pin this as hard as I can, Ant's just going to bring his elbow up to the ceiling and it's out. The reason he can do that is because he can move his elbow. If he can move the elbow, he can free the arm. So my goal is to block the elbow, so I need my leg here. So when Ant goes to free his arm, I have the elbow pinned. So I'm here. In order to do that, when I trap the arm, my first goal is not the arm trap. If my knee is down here and I go to trap, Ant is going to pull this elbow free and he's going to free the arm. So I'm going to bring my knee up to my shoulder. Here. I extend my leg and I bring my leg in front of the chest. So again, when I push his hand down below the line of the chest, I bring my knee up to my shoulder, extending my leg, turning my foot in. Now, I like to use the pocket of my knee right here, and I make sure I make a good connection with my hamstring and the pocket of my knee onto his upper arm. So now when he goes to move that elbow, when he goes to slip the elbow free like he did before, it doesn't work. If my knee comes down and now he slides that elbow, he can take the arm out very easy. So that's another very important key detail when it's time to trap his arms. So let's review that. It's always going to be the top leg. I need to bring the hand down below the line of the chest, down to the soft stomach. And then I need to make sure my knee comes up so I can get my hamstring on his tricep, higher than his elbow. Now when Ant goes to free that arm, it's well caught. Okay? Now another element when I'm trapping the arms is I like to use closed wedges. Right now my legs are set as wedges around Ant's body, but they're open. The ends of the levers here are not reinforced. So there's a possibility that he might come down to the end of the lever and force this away from the chest to free that arm. So even just with one arm, can you bring your elbow in front of my ankle? Yes, yeah, exactly. If he does that, he starts to, yes, he can slip his arm free. One more time. One more time. He can go down, he can start to pummel the arm in and free the arm. So when I'm here, I like to take my second leg and cross my ankles, and now I'm going to back heel. I'm going to use my two heels, pulling back into the stomach as I also pinch my knees. So now when Ant goes to free that arm, it is well caught. The second arm, as we'll see later, is going to be caught with this control arm. Okay, we'll talk about that later. So that's how we trap both arms. Now right here, I have my closed wedges. Make sure you don't have your feet down too low. If Ant takes his legs over my ankles, he can actually extend and he can submit my ankles here. So let's make sure that when I trap the arm and I cross my ankles, I'm up high above the hip line. If my ankles go low below his hip line, he can trap the ankles. So we're staying up here above the hip line. Now when he goes to trap my ankles, he can't reach them. Okay? Another option that I have, right now, another way Ant can get out is he can pummel his thumb, his hand behind his back, and now he can kind of lean to the side to move his shoulder, and he can free the elbow out that way. Let's show that one more time. He can take the hand in behind the back, he can move the shoulder, and he can free the elbow. So when I'm here with my closed wedges, my crossed ankles, back heeling and pinching, by the way, this leg is on bottom. Why? If this leg is on bottom, I don't have a good seal here. Ant can pummel his hand free. Just pummel your wrist free. Yeah. I'm here, he just pummels his wrist free. And he gets, there's space. So this leg is on the bottom. Now remember, like I said earlier, if Ant can pummel his hand behind his back, he can free the arm. So if I'm here and I feel Ant pummeling the arm behind his back, I'm going to follow the arm, and I'm going to make sure I trap his wrist with my ankle. So let's go back. So I'm here. As I feel Ant pummeling, I put my shoelaces on his back. So now when Ant tries to free the arm, it's trapped. Now we don't have closed wedges, but because his arm is stuck behind his back, it's weak enough that it doesn't matter. Okay, so those are some details to help you with the arm trap. We always use the top unweighted leg. We bring the hand below the line of the chest. We make sure we cover the elbow above the elbow joint on the tricep. And then ideally we use closed wedges blocked above the hip line. Okay? Then finally, if at any point he goes to pummel his arm free, we follow, and we put our shoelaces right on his spine.
So those are some basic principles to take with you or to keep in mind when you guys are trying to work the straitjacket against your partners. Next, we're going to go through some of the specific straitjacket grip fighting procedures. I have a very specific set of movements I do that will almost always give me the proper grip fight. Will almost always give me the straitjacket. Before we get into that, I want to talk about how I use my grips. I have to sit right in front of the camera here. Let's understand that we have straight grips and we have cross grips. We also have direct grips and we have indirect grips. So what are these? What does this mean? A straight grip is where my left hand controls Ant's left hand. I do not go across the center line. When I use straight grips, you can be at the wrist. Okay, it's not wrong to do so, but this can be a little easier for him to straighten his arm out of. He straightens his arm going out of the weakness of the grip. Weakness of the grip is right here. If if I hold this, he straightens his arm out of the weakness of the grip, and he's gone. I find it's harder for him to straighten his arm when we control further down toward the end of the lever. The maximum that we can go is to include the bones of the hand and grip here over the knuckle line. Just like so. And then I take the weakness of my grip and I cover the weakness of my grip with his body. So now when Ant goes to free his hand, it's very difficult. Now one way that Ant might be able to free the hand here is by driving his hand down towards his hips, and sometimes he'll overpower my 4 fingers and they'll start to strip out there. If you find that this starts to happen to you a lot, I can take my thumb to the same side as my 4 fingers and I use a thumbless grip. I can roll my wrist forward and I cover the outside of the pinky here. So now when Ant tries to straighten his arm down like he did before, it's not as easy. The problem is now I don't have a thumb over this knuckle, so he might be able to take his hand up and over. Maybe he might be able to start to weaken my grip by coming up a little bit first, and that'll start to weaken the grip a little bit. So there's no right or wrong way to do it, just understand the pros and cons of each. If I grip with my thumb, and I cover the weakness of the grip with the chest, if he tries to move his hand up, my thumb blocks it. If I'm here and he moves his hand up, he might be able to start to weaken the integrity of my grip. But if I'm here, my thumb's on the top, now if he straightens his hand down, toward the floor, toward your, he might be able to start to get that hand away from me. So if his intention is to fight downward, I put more of my hand down below. Now when he tries to go down, very hard. If Ant's intention is to come up towards his head, I like to get my thumb on top, so I have some control on top. If he then changes and goes down below again, I may take my thumb down and go below. Okay, so there's a little difference here, but either way we're controlling at the knuckle line. And that's a straight grip. Next, let's talk about a cross grip. A cross grip is where my arm reaches across the center line and I grab the opposite hand. Now when I grab a cross grip, I prefer to grip at the wrist. The nature of the arm and the hand is such that the forearm gets narrower and narrower as it gets to the wrist. But then once it gets to the wrist, it widens again. The hand becomes wider than the wrist. So the hand functions as something like a knot tied in a rope. You guys ever have to climb a vertical rope in gym class? I'm sure we've all seen it, some sort of pop culture reference, right? The gym rope you gotta climb. It is much easier to climb a rope that has several knots tied in it, because as you slide down that rope, your hand will catch on the knot, and you won't slide down any further as long as you can keep your hand caught on that knot. Just like this. Here, Ant can pull his elbow out to the side and free the arm, but once he gets to the hand, his hand functions like a knot at the end of that rope. I'm here, Ant goes to free the arm, and he can pull it out up until he gets to the hand. So now when I control the wrist, and now understand, I would never actually grab the hand here, because I don't like that he can create momentum as he's freeing. So I'll just grab right at the knot itself, right here. Now when Ant tries to free that grip, very difficult. So we have straight grips and we have cross grips. Straight grips can be over the wrist, but typically we prefer them over the knuckle line. Cross grips will be right at the wrist. Another set of grips we have to understand are direct grips and indirect grips. Understand that I can control Ant with my grip, and this is what we would call a direct grip. I am directly controlling Ant through my own grip. But if Ant grips me, we call this an indirect grip. Now, I don't have control over Ant. Not really. If I ever go to move my hand, and Ant doesn't want his hand to move, he can just let go. But oftentimes your opponents won't let go. Sometimes they'll be gripping here, whatever. But if I want to move Ant's hand, let's say I need to move it down below the line of the stomach, downwards by the soft belly, even though he's gripping me, if I bring my hand down, his hand will often come down as well. So we call this an indirect grip. I don't have direct control of him, but I have control of him indirectly through his grip. Okay? So we can have, this would be, for instance, an indirect straight grip. This would be a direct straight grip. We have direct cross, and we have indirect cross. I hope that's making sense. Now that we understand straight grips and cross grips, and we understand where to grip with a straight grip, and we understand where to grip with a cross grip, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the actual grip fighting procedures. So, here, will you finish to the side, please? Let's leave this one a little bit. Perfect. Now I'm here, and we're going to cover the control side first. You can do the straightjacket grip fighting from either the choking side over here, where I'm on the side of my choking arm, and we can work it from the side of my control arm. There's typically more options to do from the control arm side, and we're going to cover the control arm side first. We'll come back and we'll look at the choking arm side later. We're going to start at the bottom of the hierarchy. There's a hierarchy of grips we can have as far as grip dominance goes. I would say the weakest form, or one of the weakest forms, is where we have double straight grips. So both grips are straight. I have a direct grip on him, and then there's an indirect grip on this side, where he has a grip on me. Okay? So we have double straight, one direct, one indirect. From here, I make sure I have a high bottom hook, and now he's controlling my choking arm. He's not going to let this thing go. If he lets this go, I'm just going to go for the neck. So your partners are typically going to keep this grip. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my control hand here to pull his arm off of his chest, and I slide my choking arm down the body, bringing my choking arm away from the neck. But what did that also do? It brought his hand down here below the line of the chest. And now, you guys are going to use a skill or an ability called prior perception. And that is the ability of one part of your body to always find the other part. I could close my eyes, I don't even need to look at my hands, but I can always take my right foot and find my right hand. Without looking, doesn't take any sort of extreme flexibility. Every human body is set up so that the hands and the feet can always touch. Okay, it doesn't take a large degree of flexibility. So I use the indirect grip, I use the indirect grip to bring his hand down below the line of the chest, and then I use that prior perception, and I'm going to take my heel right to my own wrist. I put my heel in between my wrist and Ant's wrist, right here. Okay. Hand goes down. I find the pocket between my wrist and his wrist and my heel, and then I'm going to use my heel to pull his hand off my grip. Now from here, I cross my ankles above the line of the hips, making sure that my knee is above Ant's elbow. And now when Ant goes to free that arm, it's not easy. If he ever goes to bring it behind the back, I follow it, I put my shoelaces behind the back. So now when Ant goes to get out of this position, or he goes to defend the neck, it's very hard. So that was, again, double straight, one direct, one indirect. Okay? Let's look at double straight, double direct. Now let's say he's got a grip on me, and let's say he's a little wiser. Okay? Every time I bring my hand down below the line of the chest, he lets go. So I can't trap. I come back to the choke and he defends. Okay? I go back down, he lets go. So what do we do when we have somebody like this, somebody who's a little wiser? Well, when I go up to the neck, his grip over my thumb here is very good at stopping me from taking my right hand over his left shoulder. But it's abysmally weak at stopping me from pulling my hand over the right shoulder. So if he's got a grip on me and I can't free my grip, I'm just going to pull my hand straight back over this shoulder. He can try to follow me. Keep a grip, Ant. He can try to follow me, but eventually I'm going to get my hand free. Now, when I come back, I'm not going to go for as
for my seatbelt again, but I'm going to come back right into my direct grip. So my goal is the knuckle line, my goal is not the choke. So he's got this grip on me, and it's right here. I go back, and I grab him. And now we have double straight, double direct. 2 straight grips, and they're both direct grips. Now, when I push Ant's hand down below the line of his chest, he can't just let go like he could before. Remember when I was here, he could let go. When I'm here, Ant can't let go. I push the hand down below the line of the chest, straightening my right arm. I use my right leg, I bring my knee up to my shoulder. I bring my heel in between our 2 wrists, and I trap the arm. So double straight, double direct. Now we're going to move on to cross gripping, which is I think the stronger way, the stronger, easier method of trapping the arm is with a cross grip. When I go with a straight grip, I can only get my hand so far down because this hand is above his shoulder line. But when I take a cross grip, I can push his hand down a little further, which will give me easier reach with this leg. So for those of you who are less flexible, or you're not as confident in your flexibility, notice how, let's keep this on my way. I can put the hand down like so with my straight grip, but when I take a cross grip, because my left arm is underneath his shoulder, I can go down further yet. Okay? So what's this gonna look like? I've got a straight grip on Ant. Ant grips me, and I can't get to the choke. I pull my hand out, and I grab over the knuckle line. Now from right here, I'm going to make a pass off. I'm going to release the control arm, and I'm going to pass his wrist off to my left hand. Right here. Okay? Give me this hand again. So we go here. Here. Now I have my single cross. My single cross grip. One cross grip, one direct grip. I push it down below the line of the chest. My knee comes up to my shoulder, going above his elbow. And then I pin my heel to his stomach right here. And I can cross. Now for those of you who are a little more, who have a little more, dexterity here, you can actually pin, and I can pull. I don't even have to let this grip go. Maybe there's a little worry that I might have to let this grip go when I go to cross, and there's a little worry that he might free his arm in that moment. I can pummel my hand underneath, and I can cross my ankles without ever having to let that wrist go. So there was never an opportunity for him to pummel that wrist free in the transition. Okay. Now once again, once I trap this arm, I come back to this arm here, and now we have 2 trapped arms. So that's a double cross, or I'm sorry, that was a single cross. Now let's start looking at double cross, one direct, one indirect grip. So I'm here, I get my grip, and it goes to control my choking arm. Yep, there we go. I free. I grab double direct over the knuckle line, double straight. Now I make my pass off to my single cross, and I trap. Okay, now from right here, Ant is going to probably block my choking arm. If he doesn't, I'm going to choke him. So he's going to put in a thumb post inside my wrist, just like that, grabbing my wrist, and he has this grip. Okay, so all I need to do now is come up to the knuckle line, grab over the knuckles, peel the grip, and we once again have 2 trapped arms and a free choking hand. Show that one more time. Okay, I'm here. He's got a grip here. I pull back, grab, pass off. Here I'm going to go for the choke. He's going to defend, and that gives me an ability to strip that grip off. Now finally, we're going to go to the pinnacle of the hierarchy. Double cross, double direct. Same thing, he's got my choking arm, I pull it back, I seize a grip over the knuckles. I make my pass off. Now we looked before at how Ant went to block my choking arm here. And as he blocks my choking arm, it becomes very easy for me to trap this arm here, just like so. But what if Ant is, maybe he's been hit with this a few times in the past, he's wised up to this. So he doesn't go to stop my choking arm first, he actually goes to free his grip. So he's going to use his left hand to free his right hand. But he's going to peel the grip off and get his hands back. Okay, so I trap, and I know Ant's going to go to peel my grip off, but I know where he's going to go, and I can just get another grip on him. So I have double cross, double direct. From here I can trap the arms, and now we have a free choking arm to go through and get the finish.
You okay? Okay, so we have all those different grip fightings. We had the straight grips, cross grips, direct grips, indirect grips. Do you want to, let's, just for the camera, for the viewers, let's run through them all really quick one more time. Okay. So we're here. I'm right here, I have this grip on here, and he's got a grip on my choking arm. Okay? Again, we could start just with this. Sometimes if he's going to hang on to this grip long enough, I can use this grip against him. And that's one way. Okay, that's double straight, one direct, one indirect. If that's not good enough, we can go double straight with two direct. Okay. Now let's say from here I'm having trouble getting the hand down low enough. We can always go to a single cross. And we have the arm trapped. Let's say from the single cross, I go to get my choke, and he defends. I take this grip off here, and now I can choke. Let's say, or finally, I go to my straight cross here, and this time, rather than defending the choke, he tries to free his own hand with his left hand. And when I see that, I take that grip away. So we have, momentarily, we have double cross, double direct. So that one more time. I'm here. It's not long enough, so I go here. He goes to free the grip. Right here. Double cross, double direct. Alright, and that's how we trap the arm do all the arm trapping on the control side. Now, let's look at trapping the arms on the choking side. Now we're here, and this time we're going to fall to the choking side. I'm on my choking arm. Again, we know it's going to have to be the top leg that does the trapping.